First place we're going to look is the fall arrest indicator. If it's been deployed, well, the harness has been involved in a fall, so we take it out of service. This one hasn't, so we continue. After the fall arrest indicator, we go look for the labels. The labels are legible, so we found our labels. We are good to go. This label pouch is armored to protect the labels so they don't get damaged. After the labels, I go back to the back D-ring and I start working on the hardware. So I'm making sure there's no rust, cracks, or corrosion or distortion, and it's in good condition. I look underneath the D-ring to make sure on the inside it's not damaged as well. Now I'm going to start looking at the hardware. So this is the chest strap. These are mating buckles. Again, watching for rust, cracks, or corrosion, making sure that they function. These are the adjustment buckles or friction buckles on the front straps. Make sure those are in good working order. This harness has a pivot link on the hips. It's another piece of hardware. Same, we make sure it's functioning and there's no rust, cracks, or corrosion. The buckles, and make sure that the buckle's in good condition and it's functioning. You have two buckles because you have two legs. On the leg straps, we're checking the grommets, making sure that they're seated properly and there's no damage. There's no extra holes put in between the grommets, as we're not allowed to modify the webbing in any way. Now we're going through the webbing itself. So we're going to go through the front straps, through the back strap. We also go through the chest strap. And sometimes you have to move some buckles and padding and keepers around so you can do the visual inspection, so you move them. We go through every inch of the webbing. As we're going through it, when we get the stitched portions, we check the stitch patterns to make sure there's no broken stitches, but we go through every inch of it. Back strap, butt strap, leg straps, all of it. If we find signs of damage that shouldn't be there, we take the harness out of service. There's a stitch pattern. We're comparing two stitch patterns to make sure that they are the same. Webbing keepers need to be present. We use those to tuck in excess webbing so it doesn't become an entanglement hazard or a trip hazard. And we also need to make sure that our lanyard keepers are also present so we have a place to attach our lanyard when we're not using it. Those are breakaway hooks or breakaway loops. This harness is specifically designed for welding. The material is made out of a blend of Kevlar and Nomex that withstands high heat very well. The webbing of this harness is designed to stretch. It's a urethane elastomer or a stretchy material, so you can wear it snug but still move for extra comfort. When inspecting a harness, the first place we look is for our fall arrest indicator. This is to tell us whether the harness has been compromised from a fall. The manufacturer in this case has taken a piece of the webbing and folded it over. It's called a pucker stitch. They fold it over and put a stitch in it. In the event of a fall, the stitching will break and the webbing will straighten out and the fold will be missing. And that's how we tell if the harness has been involved in a fall. This is a different style of fall arrest indicator. Beneath the D-ring on the plastic slider, it says fall arrest indicator, and there is an arrow pointing to a small gap. If that small gap is broken, that tells us that the harness has been involved in a fall and we're to take it out of service. This is one that I've removed from a harness to illustrate that the gap has been broken, and that would tell us the harness has been compromised and we're to remove it from service immediately. On some of the DBI Sala Delta no-tangle harnesses, there is also a fall arrest indicator on the back D-ring. In the piece where the D-ring pivots in that plastic holder, if the harness was involved in a fall, the D-ring would actually pop out of that. And on the bottom of the D-ring, you could see some red paint or red tape showing. If you saw red, it meant it was involved in a fall and should be taken out of service immediately. When inspecting metallic components or hardware, we're looking for corrosion, cracking, any signs of visible damage. In this case, this D-ring has been distorted. It's no longer round, it's gone to a pear shape because it's been stretched. And it's been stretched to the point of catastrophic failure where we broke the back. There's markings on D-rings. The 5M tells me it has a 5,000 pound braking strength. The other markings on it are for traceability. There's also a symbol of an anvil. That tells me this is drop forged steel. Not all D-rings are drop forged. Some are stamped steel and some are cast steel. And there are more markings for traceability. This D-ring is showing extreme corrosion, so we would remove that from service. And this D-ring is showing catastrophic failure. This was done in a laboratory, not in the field. However, you can see that the webbing tab has been completely broken off. Beneath the back or dorsal D-ring, there is a plastic or rubberized slider. That piece has to be in good condition, so we inspect that for any signs of visible damage, such as cracking or breaking. If we find visible damage, we remove it from service immediately. On the DBI Sala harness with a spring-loaded back D-ring, if the spring-loaded D-ring is no longer functioning, as long as the D-ring is still in the holder and not showing red, you may continue to use the harness. All fall protection devices are required to have a label. In this case, the label on this harness is inside a Velcro pouch, so we'll open that up. Inside the pouch, you will find the labels, which show the model number, the date of manufacturer. The yellow plastic tag, there's a long number on that. That's the serial number registered to this harness. It will also have some information such as warnings, as well as the CSA approval on it, the material that it's made from, the applications that you can use this piece of equipment for. There's also a spot for writing your name. Instead of writing on the webbing, they give us a tag that we can use for personal identification. Tags must be present and they must be legible. If you can't read them, you can't use it. In some cases, you may have to search carefully to find the labels or the tags on a harness. In this case, they're beneath the chest strap, and the manufacturer put them back there just to give them a bit more protection so they would last a bit longer. So you have to do a little bit of searching to find them from time to time. We also need to inspect our connecting buckles. In this case, these are quick connects. Quick connects have two spring-loaded tabs on the side that you have to depress simultaneously in order to make the buckle disengage. Make sure there's spring tension on both tabs and make sure they're both functioning. Always give it a tug to check that it's working, and they clip together just like a seat belt. So insert the male end into the female end, check the spring tabs, and make sure it releases. We're always looking for rust, cracks, corrosion, or signs of visible damage. This is a mating buckle where the small buckle passes through the larger buckle, and we check these for corrosion, any distortion, and any signs of visible damage, and make sure they're functioning. These buckles are showing extreme corrosion and should be removed from service immediately. Another style of adjustment buckle is commonly known as a friction buckle. These ones are very common. If you hold the buckle at 90 degrees to the webbing and pull the webbing through, it usually rolls through quite easily. There's a spring-loaded tab on the inside. Check the spring for tension, make sure it's functioning, and always give the webbing a sharp pull to make sure that the friction buckle is actually holding the webbing in place. These adjustment buckles need to be inspected as well. What we do on these buckles is we always give them a test. They're sometimes called parachute buckles or friction buckles, and pull some webbing through to make sure it's actually holding the webbing. They're spring loaded, so in order to release the buckle, we press down on the back of the buckle and it will release the spring to allow the webbing to slide through. Check it for any signs of visible damage, such as rust or cracking. Anything that you can see that shouldn't be there, we would take that out of service. And always give it a function check. Pull on it to make sure that it's actually holding the webbing in place. This adjustment buckle is called a revolver. You turn it and it rolls up any excess webbing. When inspecting grommets, make sure all the grommets are present. Watch for distortion or any corrosion or cracking. Make sure that they're seated firmly inside the webbing, and watch for holes in between the grommets. We are not allowed to modify the webbing in any way.